Hello, class. I'm sorry I can't be with you today, but we're going to have a great class anyway. Today we're going to be talking about advertising appeals. Just want to remind everybody that your individual assignments on the FCB grid are due on Thursday by noon. That's this Thursday, February 18th. Okay, we had talked about the FCB grid and the four quadrants of the FCB grid. And when we talk about advertising appeals, an important component of deciding what's going to be an appropriate appeal is essentially where does a product fall on the FCB grid. Okay, and here I've got a picture of Grey Goose. And the point here is that Grey Goose is a product that is high involvement, maybe moderate involvement, and feeling. So the way we communicate and the appeals we use tend to be very visual and really appealing to sensory gratification. Okay, we're going to talk today about means and chains, visual versus verbal communications, and we'll spend most of our time talking about types of advertising appeals, and then we'll talk a little bit about choosing an appeal. Okay, means and chains, or laddering as it's sometimes referred to, is really popular in ad agencies, and the idea is that it's a way to really understand what's at the core of a person's interest in a product. This is just an example. In this case, you'll see we've got a Dropbox over here, and the technique used for laddering is really kind of obnoxious. It's a constant series of questions. So, oh, what do you like about Dropbox? Well, I like that it's convenient. Why do you like that it's convenient? Well, it saves time. Why is it important to you that you save time? So I can get more done. Why is it important to you that you get more done? So I experience a greater sense of satisfaction with my work. Why is it important to you to experience that greater sense of satisfaction? Well, I want to feel accomplished. I want to feel like I've done something. And that's self-esteem. So we start with Dropbox and we end up with self-esteem. Another example here is on-time delivery, reliability, leading to peace of mind. So at the end, we have these goals that are higher order goals, things like peace of mind, being in control, self-esteem, but these are all facilitated by features of a product or a service. In this case, we're talking about Dropbox. We might also be talking about something like on-time delivery from FedEx or UPS. We also have visual versus verbal information. And we've talked about this a little bit before earlier in the semester. Visual information is more powerful in some ways. It communicates more clearly. It tends to be richer, deeper. It helps engage in memory. It elicits stronger response, and it tends to elicit more favorable attitudes. I should also point out that concrete versus abstract visualizations and verbalizations tend to have more impact. And then verbal communication tends to require more effort, especially written verbal communication. The process of reading is in and of itself more effortful than listening or than processing information in a holistic fashion. Back it up. That is processing visual information in a holistic fashion. Okay, just some examples here. You can see for bright white teeth. Very strong visual images that communicate clearly. Repetition is also an important part of communication and advertising. We need repetition for learning, but at the same time, when we see too much of the same thing, we tend to get habituation or sometimes advertising wear out. The idea is it stops being effective after a certain period of time. So the question is, where do you find the balance between familiarity and boredom? And that's really difficult. There are a number of really well-known, well-recognized advertising campaigns that have created consistent themes, but have been able to create variations on those themes to keep them fresh. A great example was the Milk Mustache campaign that used a variety of different celebrities to keep it fresh over time. Another example was the Absolut campaign, Absolut Vodka, which is a campaign that's legendary in terms of its ability to constantly be creating a fresh, new, interesting, witty approach to advertising without getting boredom, and yet keeping the same kinds of themes going. This is sometimes referred to as two-factor theory, familiarity versus boredom. So keeping it familiar because we like the familiar, but making sure that it doesn't get boring. Very difficult to do. Okay, let's talk about some different advertising appeals. First, I want to talk about fear appeals. First, I want to talk about fear appeals. Fear appeals tend to have a very strong impact on interest and memory. But there are some caveats to that. What we know from the research is that the fear has to be at a certain level. If it's too scary, people tune it out and don't pay any attention. If it's not scary enough, they're not paying attention either. So getting it in that just right spot in terms of fear is really important. Fear appeals can increase persuasiveness. Again, moderate strength of fear appeal is best. And it's important that we use fear appeals constructively to motivate people to think about or accept the solution to a problem, a fear-inducing problem that we're raising in our communication. So we make people afraid, but then we offer them the thing that will reduce their fear or will reduce the problem that they're afraid of. A lot of research has been done on fear in anti-cigarette advertising campaigns. And by and large, many of the ad campaigns that were designed to scare people away from cigarette smoking did not work because they were too scary. Now, of these four, two of them are much scarier than others, right? Which are the scariest for you? What we saw happening after the first wave early on of anti-smoking advertising campaigns was more research was done and a better understanding of that optimal level of fear was identified. Also, more recent anti-smoking ads have actually not used fear so much, physical fear, fear of health repercussions, as fear of social repercussions.
In 1 year, U.S. restaurants can produce up to 1.4 million pounds of grease, enough to fill 3,300 kiddie pools, over 33,000 water coolers, or 111,000 bird baths. Of course, a lot of it ends up right here.
Skip the grease. Go for the breakthrough taste of the new Subway Oven Crisp Chicken. Always baked, never fried. Merely 7 grams of fat and the newest part of a Subway Fresh Fit meal. Subway. Eat fresh.
How about this one? I find this creepy.
He lifted up his arms. I'd never seen anything like it. Just a little. Here.
From here
Yes.
to here. I'll never forget the day I met him.
My friends didn't say anything. Well, everyone sweats a bit. It's normal.
I didn't think much of him. In fact, I couldn't stand being around him. And then he found the answer. Now, I really like him.
Axe Dry. Meer dan een deodorant. Het is een antitranspirant.
One of the things I like about some of these ads is it also helps us understand the differences in norms and social norms. Although I think this ad may have also been available in the American market, but not on air. I love the fact that they actually combine humor and fear all in one. Okay, humor cuts through clutter. It gets our attention and tends to keep our attention. We like humor. We like humorous ads enough to actually go out and look for them. It aids us in remembering the ad and causes us to feel a little bit better about things. It puts us in a positive mood. The problem is when the consumer actually forgets what the product is, or there's some other objective that the advertiser hasn't met. What's most likely to happen in humorous advertising is something we've talked about, I think, before, which is what I call vampire creativity that sucks the selling message right out of the ad. Okay. One of the things you can do to try to avoid that is incorporating product attributes, consumer benefits, or values into the ad. One of the bonus effects of humor is that humor often impedes processing. And that can actually be a plus. You start getting that remember we talked about the central and peripheral route to persuasion. You get a more peripheral route to persuasion that does not involve active counter-arguing against messages for the ad, for the product. Often humor is particular to a given culture, so that's something you have to be aware of.
Tina, could you take a look at these scripts?
Change the bear to a shark.
Gotcha.
The wizard should have a girl's name.
This is good stuff.
These are meant divorce papers.
They're hilarious.
Miss Faye, the snake wrangler got bit again.
Well, I will suck the venom out, but this is the last time.
Tina, you're needed on stage 3.
Does Mama have to do everything around here?
Which vloekt voor de Angry Hippie sketch?
The other one.
Okay.
Tina, the nanny called. Your daughter says it's octopus time.
Thank you! No, the other kind of German shepherds.
And the next time.
What?
This is American Express calling about a suspicious charge on your card. Did you buy 14,000 racquetballs?
14,000 what? No.
No problem. We'll take it off your account right away.
You will? I don't have to do anything?
Nope.
Thanks. I can't do it all alone. That's why I'm a card member.
The writer's room is on fire.
Are you protected from unexpected problems? Are you a card member?
Okay, that was great, guys. Really great. The fire should be higher. You were amazing. Let's do another one.
D'où vient ma passion pour le cinéma?
Like an explosion.
Je crois que j'ai toujours aimé le cinéma. Le travail avec les acteurs,
And after,
les effets spéciaux.
you can add some explosion.
Yeah, more explosions. That's always good.
He is an amazing director, very sensitive.
I don't give a shit!
La mise en scène.
A white shot like that. Castle burning, we like that. Everybody screaming, lot of blood, boom, explosion.
Le scénario.
Well, sorry, we're ready for yeah, come in.
La musique. En fait, j'aime tout dans le cinéma. Vous savez, j'ai vu tellement de grands films depuis tant d'années qu'un jour je me suis dit, pourquoi pas moi?
Another really great ad, although I don't know what Canal Plus is. Another good example of what would play in Peoria is not necessarily what plays in other parts of the world. And also a good example of sort of marrying together sex and humor. Okay, let's talk about sex appeals. Again, sex tends to help cut through the clutter and get attention. It's seen as interesting but not always effective for brand recall, and often, in fact, confuses us. We can't remember what the ad is about because we've been paying attention to the sex. Also, an important point is the difference between sex and sensuality. There's actually a lot of advertising that focuses on sensuality and sensual experiences, which isn't really the same thing as sex. We also see various forms of sex appeal. So we see decorative models, but we also have issues of relevance. Is sex actually relevant to a particular ad or not? Most of you have heard the expression sex sells. Well, as a matter of fact, it doesn't always sell. Sometimes it's more of a distraction than a help. And again, we have cultural concerns. What works in one culture is not going to work in another culture. And a perfect example is having the attractive model with the car, something that's going to be beneficial. At a car show, that might be.
It's hard. They always do that. As soon as they get what they want, they disappear. They take advantage of me time and time again. And I let them. Sometimes I feel so dirty. Used. What happened to romantic dinners? Picnics at the beach, holding hands in the park, a cozy night with DVDs and popcorn. They don't see me as me. They see me as some sort of toy. Sometimes I just want to be held at night. I just want to be held. All they think about is f***ing is nice, but not 24/7. Women are pigs.
Become a girl toy. Visit the Jack and Jones store near you. New jacket collection out now.
Take a glance at everything you're meant to see. Can you feel the words in the world singing up in the trees? Let us take you through this wonderful world of butterflies. It's all up to you.
You gotta love Axe. Okay, musical appeals. Increases attention and persuasion, and music can have such a strong impact on our memory. We talked about music before in terms of something like conditioning, or at least pairing of music and the emotions that they generate. And really, music is critical to generating emotion in advertising. And one of the issues is, do you use well-known music or do you use created music? And often you can use well-known music as a shortcut to reach some goal. In the first example here, it's actually not well-known music, it's created music.
Set fire to your hair, poke a stick at a grizzly bear, eat medicine that's out of date, use your private parts as piranha bait. Dumb ways to die, so many dumb ways to die. Dumb ways to die, so many dumb ways to die. Get your toast out with a fork, do your own electrical work, teach yourself how to fly, eat a 2-week-old unrefrigerated pie. Dumb ways to die, so many dumb ways to die. Dumb ways to die, so many dumb ways to die. Invite a psycho killer inside, scratch a drug dealer's brand new ride. Take your helmet off in outer space, use a clothes dryer as a hiding place. Dumb ways to die, so many dumb ways to die. Dumb ways to die, so many dumb ways to die. Keep a rattlesnake as a pet, sell both your kidneys on the internet. Eat a tube of super glue. I wonder, what's this red button do? Dumb ways to die, so many dumb ways to die. Dumb ways to die, so many dumb ways to die. Dress up like a moose during hunting season, disturb a nest of wasps for no good reason. Stand on the edge of a train station platform, drive around the boom gates at a level crossing, run across the tracks between the platforms. They may not rhyme, but they're quite possibly the dumbest ways to die. The dumbest ways to die. The dumbest ways to die. So many dumb ways to die.
Be safe around trains. A message from Metro.
This was actually an award-winning campaign in Australia, and actually also is a great example of how a campaign can go viral. You might want to take a look under Dumb Ways to Die, Wikipedia, and you'll see a history of what happened with this campaign, and it's pretty interesting.
369, the goose drank wine, the monkey chewed tobacco on the street bar line. The line broke, the monkey got choked. They all went to heaven in a little rowboat. Clap back, clap back, clap back, clap, clap, clap back, clap your hand, pat it on your partner's hand. Right hand, clap back, clap your hand, cross it with your left arm, pat your partner's left palm. Clap, pat, clap your hand, pat your partner's right palm.
The all-new Beetle. It's back.
Slap, clap your hand, slap your thigh, and sing a little song. Go, my mother told me.
Volkswagen does a really great job of incorporating music. And we've seen that over and over again. One of my current favorites is this one.
Beth, I hear you calling, but I can't come home right now. Me and the boys are playing, and we just can't find the sound. Just a few more hours, and I'll be right home to you. I think I hear them calling. Oh, Beth, what can I do? Beth, what can I do?
Text Beth, what can I do?
Message, pick up milk.
Oh, right, milk.
Introducing the newly redesigned Passat.
I'm just not sure if the target market knows that song. I know that song. Do you know that song? Okay, and then we have rational appeals. Rational appeal follows the Levitin-Steiner hierarchy of effects that we talked about, that very elaborate process that's awareness and knowledge and liking and preference and conviction and ultimately purchase and then post-purchase evaluation. So it requires active processing. People are out there acquiring information, paying attention, and processing information. The consumer is also mapping the information in relation to what they already know, their existing knowledge structure. And they're thinking about solving a problem, usually, identifying and solving some kind of a problem. So what kind of situations does this rational appeal work best for? You've gotten an awful lot of hints. And I do want to point out, when we think of rational appeal, we tend to think of a lot of information, but all of that can be translated in very nonverbal ways, and this is a great example of that.
One night of magic rush, the start a simple touch. One night to push and scream, and then relief. 10 days of perfect tunes, the colors red and blue. We had a promise made, we were in love. To call for hands up above, to lean on, would it be good enough for me now? To call for hands up above, to lean on, would it be good enough?
It's a perfect example of using visual images to convey rational information about the product, in this case, a television.
There's never been an iPod that can do this. Or this. Or this. Or for that matter, this. This is how you turn it on. This is your music. This is your email. This is the web. And this is a call on your iPhone. So, say you're watching Pirates of the Caribbean. Did somebody say calamari? The closest would be ah. This is not a watered-down version of the internet, or the mobile version of the internet, or the kinda sorta looks like the internet. It's just the internet on your phone.
So the idea is that Apple was able to put together a series of short ads illustrating different functional benefits about the product, but in sort of catchy and interesting and exciting ways that would get the viewer really charged up about these new features.
There's no filter here. I can go for it. Okay.
How good a sound is that?
It's extremely nice.
No. No, thank you. That's got a strange smell. Are you sure this is right?
Oh, wow. It's spicy.
Iodine? Kind of like a medicine cupboard when you open it.
Associated with school lavatories.
Pete?
Cream?
Freshly cracked pepper.
Bit of seaweed in there.
It's kind of oily.
Like smoked fish. Huh. Because fish can be sweet.
I can even smell the seagull's armpits.
Okay, you smell it, and at first you think, oh my gosh.
Damp dog and tree bark.
A briny, smoky bacon flavor.
I could get used to that.
I think they let the cows in that one.
Ancient woodlands.
Rugged mountains.
Giants wielding swords.
You're right, man. The Crow's a great film. Beast.
There's something in it. Tar.
I don't know, it's kind of confusing.
It's not something you forget.
Oh.
How do you even say that? Lafroig. Lafroig.
Laporag. Is that right? Lafroig. Is it? Yeah. Oh.
It's beautiful. 10 years. Hell yeah. Do I get to keep this?
That's probably what's wrong with it. They've smoked it too long.
This is a very interesting ad, and I'm not sure how effective it is. It really gives arguments and counter arguments against using the product. Lafargue has a very pungent, distinctive taste, and what they're doing is they're showing consumers talking about the good and the bad of that pungent taste. So I'm not sure if it would work. Would it make you want to try the product? Very simple. It's open, direct to the point. David Ogilvy is considered the granddaddy of advertising in America, which means advertising any place. And you might want to take a look at this. The slides will all be available online as well, and you can take a look at these things that Ogilvy talks about as some of the key points. On your own, you'll also have access to all the slides. Okay, emotional appeals. Get attention, they connect with the brand. Emotions speak to us, they resonate with us. Emotions, we've talked about it before, they're a way to create and maintain brand loyalty that are very difficult to be copied by another competitor. Emotions can be very rich, and when we translate those emotions into images, we get very rich, deep, meaningful images. And emotion works well in some media and less well in others. I think I've also mentioned this before in class too. We don't see a lot of emotional advertising, for example, in newsprint, but we do in magazines. We do on television. We see less of it on the radio. Actually, we don't see any of it on the radio, but we hear less of it on the radio. Another really great example of music being used as a prompt for emotional response, along with images that we can all relate to, images of coming home at the holidays. Okay, and then finally, scarcity appeals. The idea that we buy now in order to take advantage of something because it's good, that opportunity will expire. It will be gone. We're trying to really get action going right away, and it can be effective if it's believable. Okay, so we talked about means and chains, we talked about visual versus verbal communication, and we talked about different types of advertising appeals. We haven't really talked about choosing an appeal, but when we think about using one appeal, one of the things that should have been obvious from the examples we saw and some of the discussion I've had is that we often use a combination of appeals. It's not one or the other, but it's often multiples. When we're thinking about choosing an appeal, one of the first things to ask ourselves is, how are our customers processing our ad? How are they searching for information in our product category? How involved is the consumer? How much time and effort and energy will they put into the search for information? And what is their motive for processing the ad? Are they looking for information, or is an emotional appeal what's going to work for them? What's the goal? What is the advertiser's goal? Are we looking to get brand recognition, brand awareness, brand image? Are we trying to position our brand? What are we trying to achieve with our communication? And what type of media are we planning on using? Or even better, what type of media works well given those other questions? One of the things you might want to think about is something like this that maps out different media and also different potential appeals. Okay, again, reminder, your FCB grid is due at noon on Thursday, February 18th. And thank you.